and yes. This is Tony Ataria from Freedom at the Crossroads, helping women everywhere look better, feel better without the pressure of O.P.E. Yes, my sisters. Yes, women of power. Yes, goddess arising. Yes, goddesses in training. Today is a new day. We're going to talk more on self-care. We're going to expand our theme. We're going to expand our discussion of self-care within the larger context of other people's expectations, O.P.E. But even more than that, we're going to dig into some hard stuff today. I want to talk about the concept, the notion of killing those cows. Yes, my sisters, killing those cows. For those of you who are vegan out there, this might be a trigger for you. But sometimes in life, sometimes when it comes to reclaiming who you are, reclaiming your power, reclaiming your essential self, that requires some visceral, very basic, primal battle that's necessary for you to do that. It's not all about flow and, thinking along the lines of alignment. Sometimes bringing things into alignment requires force, which requires that you, in some form, a brutal, primal, stripped down kind of activism. And that's what I mean when I'm talking about killing those cows. Cows. What is cow? I'm talking about comparing other women to yourself, to your essential self, to who you are. Women, sisters, goddesses, wake up, open your eyes. Break the domestication, break the cycle, break the wheel of O.P.E, break the conditioning. And part of that, a powerful component of that whole conditioning that women have suffered under, have been oppressed under and subjected to, is cows. That notion of the cow. And that's why I said you need to kill those cows. Kill comparing other women to yourself. Because that is what has separated women and bred such toxicity between women and sisters throughout the ages, throughout the centuries, throughout, the decades. Women have been conditioned to fight against themselves, to tear each other down, to compare themselves to each other, to their own destruction. The worst thing you could possibly do to yourself as a human being. Forget the whole notion itself of womanhood. The most toxic and destructive thing you can do to yourself as a human being is to compare yourself to other people. And women have been victimized by this. They have been conditioned to it, to the point that we don't lift each other up, we don't support one another, and we even do things under the guise of inauthentic friendship and sisterhood. We secretly sabotage each other and tear one another down. Such things as, we've all had that one so-called friend where she's helpfully destructive. That friend where you're getting ready for a date, to go on a date with this guy that you just met, and for you feel like you just clicked with him, and then your friend say, "Oh my dear, that dress is so lovely, but are you sure you want to go out like that?" That is the one I'm talking about. You all have had that friend or have that friend who secretly tears you down, who secretly destroys your self-confidence or injects, doubt and insecurity for whatever reason. And part of that destructive and toxic interplay is something that has been conditioned into women. Remember, there are certain forces and power structures in our patriarchal society, and with those underpinnings too of misogyny that play to that whole notion of women infighting, and it's that whole divide and conquer mentality. It's that whole divide and conquer tactic by power structures that want to maintain the status quo. Remember that if you are whole, if you are an undomesticated woman, if you have broken the conditioning, that means that you have reclaimed your power, and you are self-aware, and you are able to operate with all your powers in play, and therefore you are less likely to be victimized, less likely to be oppressed, and far less likely to be silenced. And that's not what, let's be real, what the dominant forces in most cultures want women to achieve, because that means that you're no longer silent. That means that you are no longer giving over your power to other people or their expectations. And for those of you who are familiar or who come from cultures where this is still very overt and out there, like a lot of African cultures and the Middle East as well, and parts of Asia and things of that nature, you come from societies like that, like I do as well. These things, when you confront them, when you begin to reclaim your power, recognize that is not going to be something that is, seamless, without battle, without sweat, without some primal component involved. And that's why breaking the conditioning, breaking the cycle of O.P.E, it creates so much power and light. It's like an explosion, because the energy and the power that has been constrained and restrained over time has just has been suppressed and suppressed and suppressed, until finally, like a pressure cooker, when you finally break those chains, there is a explosion of power as you reclaim who you are, as you reclaim your space and your voice. And that is the powerful force of self-care. And I've had women ask me, well, what does self-care have to do with that? Well, true self-care, like I've said before, is activism. It's a reclaiming of power and autonomy. It's self-advocacy. It's breaking the silence. And when you embark on this journey, it's one that operates on the mental, spiritual, and physical planes of who you are. And so all of that has to butt up against what is going on social culturally. This is not something that happens in a vacuum. It's not something that happens on some mystery island somewhere. When you begin to expand and grow yourself, when you become awakened, when you do like Neo in the Matrix and take the red pill, and your eyes open to the realization of your situation, of what you have allowed and what has been done to you and what you have been conditioned to, it's a huge shock. And when you begin to reclaim that, as you reclaim your body, as you reclaim your space, as you reclaim your health, your mental or mental, physical, and emotional levels, when you begin to take ownership of that and begin to self-advocate and give voice to who you are and reclaim your space and begin to set boundaries, woman, the world is not gonna like that. And if you're not willing, if you are not at the point where you say enough is enough, I am reclaiming my space, my life, my core, my essential self, my dignity as a human being, then you'll be like one of those who accept the status quo, where, They don't want to, change anything. They don't want to ruffle any feathers, so to speak. They just want to go with the flow, or they're content with their lot in life. But there are a lot of women, those of us who are not, who say, no, I have a right to speak, to voice, to own my space, to reclaim my core essential self, to be who I am called to be, and not objectified as some lifeless entity by comparing other women to myself. Kill the cow, ladies. You must kill the cow. And this is what I'm talking about. So for those of you who are feeling a bit squeamish when it comes to what's required to reclaim your essential self, to stand up and reclaim your space, your voice, your autonomy, your personhood, and come into who you were truly called to be on this plane of existence, maybe this is not for you. Because like any battle, anything worth having, there is power involved. There is a point where you must toil, you must battle, you must sweat. And self-care in that aspect is very raw. Yes, there's a lot of it has to do with personal development, and a lot of personal development is very uncomfortable. And that's why I always tell my clients and, sisters that I work with and fellow undomesticated women that get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because when you begin to strip off and strip down and get dirty and really battle the forces internal and external that you have to deal with on this journey of self-care, on this journey of empowerment and reclaiming who you are and up-leveling your life on all planes of existence, guess what? Friction is involved. There is heat. There is power involved. Let us be clear. This is not a little walk in the park. It's not, like I've, said before with some disdain. It's not about complex yoga poses and smoothie bowls and being a vegan. Not to pick on veganism. I love it, in context. It's not, all this new age music. Self-care is power. And it is a battle for power. Power over self. Power over self-autonomy. Power reclaiming it. Because let us be clear, there are many dominant forces in society and culture that want to keep women in the positions that they are in, that a large number of women are in. Self-sacrifice on the altar of O.P.E. How tragic is that? How brutally tragic, and such enslavement on that altar, in that way of living, in that way of being. This is Tonya from Freeman at the Crossroads, helping women everywhere look better, feel better without the pressure of O.P.E. Kill the cow. Kill the cow, my sister. We're going to talk more on this. And as usual, I'm going to leave you hanging here on the precipice till our next episode at Freedom at the Crossroads. Till next time, my sisters.